Do you know how terrifying Xiao Yan's current strength is? He is merely a 6th grade supreme, yet he was able to withstand the full-powered strike of 7th grade supreme Luo Jutian. If you enjoy my way of explaining and storytelling, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really motivates me to keep creating. Continuing from the previous events, beneath the vast, surging flame body of Xing Bida, the majestic silhouette of an ice phoenix tore through the heavens, soaring straight into the boundless sky. One was flame-rampant, violent, devouring all. The other was ice, ancient, absolute, freezing even space itself. Fire and ice stood opposed like two primordial forces, born to annihilate one another. As the two towering figures faced off, the air between them twisted and groaned. Space itself seemed unable to bear the pressure, cracking and warping as if it might collapse at any moment. The clash had not yet begun, yet the power radiating from their confrontation already felt like the prelude to a world-shattering calamity. From the mountain peak below, Liu Beidao and Gulo Shan shot into the air, retreating far into the distant void. They halted only when they were certain they were far enough away. Their gazes locked unblinkingly onto the two figures standing at the summit. At that moment, Liu Beidao's heart was heavy with unease. He knew Luo Jutian's strength all too well. This was a true powerhouse of the Great Thousand Worlds, someone who had stood at the pinnacle for countless years. Even if Xiao Yan now possessed the ability to contend with a 7th grade supreme, attempting to directly block a full-powered strike from Luo Jutian was still by all logic an impossible feat. Cold laughter echoed across the sky. "I must admit," Luo Jutian said calmly, his voice carrying a chilling authority, "you young people from the lower plane do possess admirable courage." His eyes narrowed slightly, and an invisible pressure spread outward like a tidal wave. "But this is the Great Thousand World. With your current level of strength trying to withstand my full-force attack—" He paused, lips curling into a faint sneer. "Is nothing more than a foolish dream. If you regret this decision now, it is not too late to step back." Those words carried a crushing weight enough to make even seasoned experts waver. The very heavens seemed to fall silent, waiting for Xiao Yan's response. Yet, Xiao Yan merely smiled. It was a calm, unshaken smile, neither arrogant nor forced. In his dark eyes burned an unwavering resolve, steady and fierce, like an eternal flame that refused to be extinguished. "Senior Luo Jutian," Xiao Yan said softly, clasping his hands together, "please strike with your full strength. If I truly cannot block it—" He paused briefly, his smile deepening. "Then it will only mean that my own abilities are still lacking." For an instant the wind stopped. Luo Jutian stared at Xiao Yan intently, as though seeing him anew. Then suddenly a loud laugh rang out across the sky. "Good. Very good." He nodded slowly, genuine approval finally appearing in his eyes. "It has been a long time since a junior dared to stand before me and speak such words." The spiritual energy around him began to surge violently, the heavens trembling in response. "Then let me see." Luo Jutian said, his voice booming like thunder, "Whether you are worthy of bearing this strike." Suddenly, the composed expression on Luo Jutian's face shattered. A trace of madness surged forth, fierce and unrestrained, as his eyes burned with a terrifying brilliance. He threw his head back and roared, his voice crashing through heaven and earth like a divine decree. "Then take this brace yourself." The instant his roar fell, the colossal ice phoenix, suspended in the heavens, let out a piercing cry and violently spread its wings. Boom! An overwhelming wave of extreme cold swept outward in all directions. In less than a heartbeat, the once scorching mountain range was utterly transformed. Peaks were entombed in crystal-clear ice, rivers froze solid mid-flow, and snowstorms howled across the land. What had moments ago been a land of blazing heat instantly became a frozen domain, as if winter itself had descended from the heavens. The temperature plummeted to a terrifying degree. Even spiritual energy seemed to slow under the suppression of the frost. Luo Jutian's voice echoed once more, calm yet brimming with absolute authority. "You have only just arrived from the lower plane, so it is only natural that you do not understand," he said slowly. In the great thousand world, there exist countless heavenly rankings. As he spoke, the ice phoenix behind him radiated ancient boundless pressure. Flames possess the 100 million flame rankings. Spirit beasts are recorded in the Heavenly Beast record. Lightning is governed by the Great Thousand Heavenly Thunder Codex. His gaze turned sharp, piercing through Xiaoyan like ice. And likewise, ice and snow have their own hierarchy, the extreme cold heavenly rankings. The surrounding frost surged even more violently. The ice I command, Luo Jiutian, continued, his voice resonating with pride, is known as Heavenly Phoenix Ice, ranked 89th on the extreme cold heavenly rankings. Xiaoyan's pupils shrank slightly. For a brief moment, genuine shock surfaced in his eyes. He had never imagined that even ice and snow possessed such meticulously defined rankings within the Great Thousand world. Compared to this vast realm, the Duchi continent truly felt like a drop of water in the ocean. At that moment, a memory surfaced in his mind. The 9 profound golden thunder of the void. Thunder realm, once wielded by the ancient void dragon tribe back on the Duchi continent. A thought involuntarily crossed his mind. If that thunder were placed here, what rank would it hold within the Great Thousand Heavenly Thunder Codex? Before he could ponder further, Luo Jiutian's expression turned cold. He raised one hand and countless feathers of ice condensed around the ice phoenix. Each feather shimmered with runic light sharp enough to pierce space itself. The temperature dropped once more, reaching a level where even supreme experts would struggle to endure. Heavenly Phoenix sealing feathers. With a low shout, Luo Jiutian brought his hand down. The icy feathers trembled violently, ready to descend like a divine punishment, sealing heaven and earth alike. In an instant, the surrounding ice and snow spiritual power erupted like a raging tempest. The frozen energy of heaven and earth surged violently, flooding toward the ice phoenix behind Luo Jiutian. Layer upon layer of extreme cold converged, compressing and refining itself until it finally solidified into a gigantic white-feathered wing stretching thousands of meters across the sky. Each feather gleamed like divine crystal, radiating a sealing power capable of freezing even laws themselves. At the very same moment, a deep resonant shout rang out from the opposite side. Heavenly Flame Plaza. Before the ice phoenix, the towering flame body stepped forward. Boom! The sky trembled as a massive ancient plaza materialized out of thin air, suspended high in the heavens. The plaza was vast and solemn, exuding an aura of archaic authority, as though it had existed since the birth of the world itself. Upon the plaza stood 22 colossal stone pillars, each one soaring thousands of meters into the sky. Atop every pillar hovered a heavenly flame, blazing fiercely and releasing waves of terrifying heat that distorted space itself. This was one of Xiaoyan's strongest trump cards. Facing Luo Jiutian's full-powered strike, he dared not show the slightest hint of carelessness, not even for a breath. As the Heavenly Flame Plaza fully manifested, torrents of roaring flame instantly claimed half the sky. The 22 heavenly flames began to vibrate violently, resonating with one another before rapidly converging. Flames twisted. Space collapsed. In the blink of an eye, the raging inferno condensed into a gigantic heavenly flame ancient ruler, its body spanning several thousand meters. Ancient runes flickered across its surface, each symbol containing the might of countless flames fused into one supreme weapon. High above the heavens, the colossal ice-feathered wing descended, carrying boundless frost and an absolute sealing force. It pressed downward toward the Flame Emperor's towering figure below, as if intending to freeze him and the world itself into eternal stillness. Roar! Xiaoyan let out a furious roar that shook the skies. Both hands clenched tightly around the heavenly flame ancient ruler, veins bulging as blazing flames surged through his body. With no hesitation and no retreat, he swung the ruler forward with all his strength. The crimson ruler and the snow-white feather collided under the gaze of countless stunned spectators. Boom! A deafening explosion tore through heaven and earth. All eyes were drawn to the point of impact. The surrounding 10,000-meter expanse of space shattered instantly as if struck by a god's hammer. Cracks spread wildly across the collision zone, crawling over the two colossal forces like a spider web. Moments later, the shattered space could no longer endure. It disintegrated, completely exploding into countless fragments of spiritual power that scattered in every direction, dissolving into the vast heavens like falling stars. For a brief, terrifying instant, fire and ice erased each other, space ceased to exist, and the world itself seemed to hold its breath. As expected, Luo Jutian slowly exhaled, his gaze fixed on Xiaoyan. Then, to everyone's surprise, he suddenly laughed. This truly is the era of the young. The laughter carried no mockery, only genuine acceptance, even a trace of relief. The raging frost and flame gradually dissipated. Space slowly repaired itself as though the heavens were finally allowed to breathe again. A moment later, Xiaoyan's figure reappeared in mid-air. His aura was steady, though faint traces of exhaustion lingered around him. He clasped his fists toward Luo Jutian and spoke respectfully. "Senior, you showed mercy." Luo Jutian did not deny it. Instead, his eyes glimmered faintly, as if he were looking at the future of the great thousand world itself. High above them, Liu Beidao and Gu Luoshan stood frozen in place, their hearts violently shaken. They had witnessed everything with their own eyes. Never in their wildest imaginations had they believed that Xiaoyan could truly endure a full-powered strike from Luo Jutian. Even for veteran supremes like them, the scene was nothing short of horrifying. This was no longer merely talent. This was the rise of a monster. Luo Jutian's gaze swept across the surrounding void, his expression returning to solemn authority. "All Seat elders who have stepped into the supreme realm," he said calmly, his voice carrying unquestionable command. "Come forth. We will discuss the decisive battle against the Blood God clan's camp." As his words fell, boom, 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 a series of sonic booms echoed through the sky as one powerful figure after another tore through space, arriving from all directions. Each of them was a seat elder of the Luo God clan camp, their auras vast and profound. Yet despite their lofty status, every single one of them wore the same expression: shock. They had all witnessed the confrontation just now. The sight of a junior withstanding Luo Jutian's full force had left them utterly speechless. At that moment, Liu Beidao appeared beside Xiaoyan. He looked at him for a long while, his eyes filled with undisguised admiration. Memories of Western Dao City surfaced in his mind. Back then, he had rushed in to intervene, worried that Xiaoyan might suffer at the hands of the Manor Lord of the Heaven-Devouring Manor. Now thinking back, he realized that his concern had been entirely unnecessary. With Xiaoyan's current strength, he could have crushed that opponent alone, cleanly and decisively. Liu Beidao let out a soft, self-mocking laugh. "Ha ha ha. This really makes me feel ashamed. For my grandson Liu Tianhuang." His smile was bitter, yet tinged with acceptance. The younger generation had already stepped onto the stage, and the era belonged to them now. Though Liu Tianhuang was indeed considered talented, ranked among the upper echelons across countless continents within the Luo God domain, the gap between him and Xiaoyan had already become insurmountable. Xiaoyan had stepped into the 6th grade supreme realm, and more importantly, he had just endured head-on the full-powered strike of a 7th grade supreme. That alone was a feat Liu Tianhuang could never hope to replicate. "I was merely lucky," Xiaoyan said with a light shrug, his tone relaxed. Yet those who heard the words knew better. Luck alone could not bridge such an overwhelming disparity. His gaze swept calmly across the surroundings. Before Luo Jutian, more than 20 Supreme Realm experts had already gathered, each one radiating an aura strong enough to shake mountains and seas. When these presences converged, even the void itself felt oppressive. "Ha ha!" A 4th grade Supreme suddenly burst into loud laughter, his eyes shining with excitement. Where did this powerhouse come from? Such terrifying strength. Another elder chimed in, his voice brimming with battle intent. "Is he a new addition to our ranks?" Looks like we can finally have a proper fight with those Blood God clan bastards. Beside them, a 6th grade Supreme Elder narrowed his eyes thoughtfully. Turning toward Luo Jutian, he spoke in a deep voice. Now that the camp's strength has increased so greatly, how does the great commander plan to proceed? At those words, the atmosphere subtly shifted. Conversations fell silent. One by one, the Supreme Realm experts turned their gazes toward Luo Jutian, their expressions solemn and resolute, waiting for his decision. The storm of war was drawing ever closer. Luo Jutian wore a faint smile as his gaze swept across the assembled Supreme Realm experts, each one brimming with battle intent. The Blood God clan camp is indeed a grave threat, he said calmly. Eliminating them as early as possible would bring nothing but benefits to the border continents. His words carried the weight of long experience. This was not mere bravado, but a calculated judgment forged through countless battles. Senior Luo Jutian Xiaoyan stepped forward and spoke, his expression solemn. May I ask about the top-tier combat strength of the Blood God clan camp? Luo Jutian nodded slightly. Their camp lies deep within the western Nether Mountain range, more than 1 million miles from here, he began. Their leader is Huang Yunpo. His strength has already reached the peak of the 7th grade Supreme Realm. A subtle pressure spread through the air as his words fell. Besides him, they possess 2 6th grade Supremes, Luo Jutian continued. Those 2 are currently being restrained by Gu Luoshan and Elder Song. As he spoke, he gestured toward the grey-robed elder, indicating Elder Song's position. Beyond that, Luo Jutian said, his tone steady and precise. The Blood God clan camp has a total of 25 Supreme Realm experts. He enumerated their forces one by one: 4 5th grade Supremes, 7 4th grade Supremes, 6 3rd grade Supremes, and 8 1st and 2nd grade Supremes. The Supremes present all narrowed their eyes. Even among elites, such numbers could not be taken lightly. In terms of sheer numbers, Luo Jutian concluded, they slightly surpass us. Were it not for our terrain advantage, we would not have been able to hold them back until now. He paused, then added, our Luo God clan camp currently has 22 Supremes, 6 fewer than the enemy. At that moment, Luo Jutian turned his gaze toward Xiaoyan. His eyes were sharp, probing, yet faintly expectant. So he asked calmly, if we launch a decisive battle right now, do you have the confidence to deal with the remaining 6 Supreme Realm experts? The question hung heavily in the air. All eyes shifted to Xiaoyan. The fate of the coming war now rested on his answer. At that moment, all eyes converged on Xiaoyan. He had only just arrived at the Luo God clan camp and was still unfamiliar with the terrain, the enemy, and the broader battle situation. Sending him directly against Huang Yunpo would be far from prudent. Even if Xiaoyan might not lose, Huang Yunpo stood at the peak of the 7th grade Supreme Realm, and beneath him were 2 powerful 6th grade Supremes. According to the original battle plan, it was far safer for Gu Luoshan and Elder Song, both seasoned veterans, to restrain those 2. Moreover, this war would not necessarily be decided in a single clash. At the worst, in the final decisive confrontation, Xiaoyan and Luo Jutian could join forces. Together they would dramatically increase the likelihood of slaying Huang Yunpo once and for all. Such was the most rational and conservative approach. Yet, as everyone waited for Xiaoyan's answer, he did not speak immediately. Instead, he slowly stepped forward. The sound of his footsteps echoed faintly through the silent sky as he walked toward Luo Jutian. His pace was unhurried, his expression calm, but an inexplicable pressure followed his every step. When he finally stopped before Luo Jutian, Xiaoyan lifted his gaze. "Senior," he said quietly, his voice steady yet resolute, "do you still remember what I said earlier?" The words were simple, but as they fell, a subtle change rippled through the atmosphere. Everyone sensed it. Xiaoyan was about to make a choice that would upend the entire battle plan. That's all for today's content. See you in the next part. Support me by becoming a member. It will give me more motivation. Thank you so much.